Hey, how's it going? Today I am talking about how long you need to let your injury heal before you can run again. This is Running to the Castle, a podcast for injury-prone RunDisney runners on a journey to running magical miles. Join me, Dr. Allie, as I share the secrets I've gathered as a runner, doctor of physical therapy, and coach. You'll learn the exact ways I get my clients to the castle strong without feeling broken or held together with KT tape as they cross the finish line. Okay, let's get into this. So, as a physical therapist, as a runner myself, as a coach who works with injury-prone or injured runners, I get this question all the time. It's probably at least in my top 3 questions. How long do I need to rest to let my injury heal? And to be honest, it depends. I know everybody hates that answer, but it really does. It really depends because of the type of injury. Now, if you are in the 80% of injuries caused by running or 80% of running injuries, you're in one category. So 80%, that's a big chunk. If you're in 20% of running injuries, that's another category. And then a whole other category itself, and I'm making these categories up right now. The other category would be that you've had some kind of traumatic event. So there's a different answer for each of these 3 categories. I'm going to start with the traumatic event one first, because if that's you, then I want you to know that information first. Okay, so a traumatic event would be you got in a car accident, you had a major injury that happened. You are a runner, but it didn't happen because of training. Like, yes, maybe you were running and you stepped off the curb and tore your ACL, or you were going to go out for a run and you ruptured your Achilles, or you were in a car accident and had multiple bone fractures, or some other kind of thing like those types of injuries. Okay, so that's a category in itself. The amount of time you need to rest depends on how bad that injury was. You're going to need to rest to, in general, let your body heal. So if you tore a ligament or you tore a muscle or you broke a bone, you need to go see a healthcare professional, because those injuries, they don't heal on their own. And by on their own, I mean without some kind of medical intervention. Okay, so if you have a broken bone, you may need a cast or you may need surgery. If you have a torn ACL, you may need surgery or you may not. If you have a ruptured Achilles, you definitely need surgery. Actually, I should take that back, because I do know somebody that did not have surgery for a ruptured Achilles. I professionally don't recommend it, but it can happen. So those types of people, they are one category, and they need to talk to the medical professional to see how bad that injury is, to see how long they have to rest it. Now, it could be a week, it could be 2 weeks, and then they can go and do something. If it's a broken bone of the leg, if it's a torn ligament or a torn tendon, you're not going to be able to run for sure for a while. Even if you have a rotator cuff injury and you have a rotator cuff repair, you're not allowed to run for, I think it's 10 weeks after that surgery. That's on average. Some are sooner, some are longer, because of the injury and the repair. Some people are like, oh my God, but it's a rotator cuff. It's a shoulder injury. Why can't I run? It's the bouncing that can put tension on that shoulder. Okay, so if you had one of those traumatic kind of injuries, go seek medical professional advice. Go see how long you have to rest for. Okay, now let's move into the 20% of running injuries. Okay, 20% of running injuries need to take time off from running. Okay, 20%. That means 80% of running injuries don't need to be resting. So that's good news for you because 80%, that's a big chunk. 20% do need to rest. So somebody who has so much pain that they can't find a comfortable position, or it's waking them up in the middle of the night, or they have pain even at rest. Those are 3 symptoms that you could have that would indicate that you need to be resting. Those are indications that something pretty serious is going on, and you should seek medical attention. Okay, go see your medical provider, your primary care physician, go to urgent care if you think it's bad enough and it's an emergent problem, life or limb threatening. Go to the emergency department. That's 20% of running injury cases. 80% of running injuries don't need more rest. So what do I mean by that? So typical running injuries happen due to overload, overtraining, doing too much. Those are all different ways to say the same thing. And so 80% of those running injuries, more rest can actually do more harm. So what do I mean by that? So the common thing that a medical provider will do is they will say, okay, your knee hurts. Rest for 2 weeks, see how it feels. If it feels better, you can run again. And so you do. You rest for 2 weeks, it feels better, and you go out and run again. The pain comes back, the knee pain comes back, and usually at least as bad or worse. So you think, okay, well, the doctor last time told me to rest for 2 weeks, and if it felt better, I can run again. You will go in this cycle over and over and over and over again if this is the path that you choose. If you rest and then run again, you will then rest and then run again and then rest and then run again. And typically it's the 2-week time frame. Why is it the 2-week time frame? Because pain that will handle itself usually resolves in 10 to 14 days. Now notice, I said pain. I did not say heal your injury. Pain and injury are not synonymous. Woo, leaving that in there. They are not synonymous. They are related, but they're not the exact same. Okay? So you can have pain and not be injured. You can still be injured and not have pain. And that latter aspect is typically what happens when you rest for 2 weeks and then go back out and run again. Your pain is gone, but your injury, whatever has happened, is not resolved in the 2 weeks. Very, very rarely is it resolved in the 2 weeks. It could be getting better because 2 weeks, the healing process has begun. 2 minutes, the healing process has begun, but it's not healed. So what ends up happening is if you rest for the 2 weeks and then go and run again, depending on how far you ran, and most, I'd say 80% of the people I talk to, maybe even more like 90%, they say, oh, I rested for 2 weeks and then I went out for a run and I had to make up for the 2 weeks that I lost. So I just kept going. I went to whatever week of training that was. So if the pain happened 2 weeks ago after my 10-mile run, well, now 2 weeks later, it's a 12-mile run. I don't want to miss those 2 weeks of training. So I'm just going to go out for that 12-mile run. And then you get more pain again. So we don't want to do this. We don't want to do that because you are just going to go in this cycle and you are doing more now. And the injury is not gone. The problem, the thing that caused the pain in the first place, the origin of it, has not been resolved. You have not solved that problem. You haven't even addressed that problem. So resting for 2 weeks and then going back into running equal or more to what you were doing before is going to make your injury worse. Okay, so you're probably thinking, Dr. Allie, you're getting a little far away from well, how long do I need to rest for? So with 80% of running injuries, I actually don't recommend any rest at all. So somebody who has pain at the beginning of their run, but it goes away as they get going, maybe 2 miles in, and they feel better, or somebody who has pain after the run, so they didn't hurt while they were running, but it comes on after the run, sometime later in the day. Okay, those are two aspects. So at the beginning of the run and gets better, after the run, maybe lingers for a day or two. Okay, so those are two instances where it starts at the beginning of the run, gets better, and maybe goes away, or it happens at the end of the run or later in the day or maybe the next day. So those are two instances. So what I recommend my clients do is look at the training plan. And I would say the majority of cases, they start having pain when their training plan has hit like 7, 8, 9, 10 miles, that kind of time frame. So most of my clients, I should say, are training for either a half marathon or the 2-course challenge at runDisney, so the 10K and the half marathon, or a marathon at runDisney, so runDisney specific, or Goofy or Dopey, so half marathon and up. So the majority of my clients, they start getting pain as they're really increasing those miles. So what I recommend they do is, well, look at your training plan that you've been following. Does it follow the 10% rule? Yes or no? How much are you running? Like how many days a week are you running? And how much, not just is your long run increasing, are the other runs in your week increasing as well? I create training plans at typically 3 runs, unless you're doing Dopey. That includes 4 runs a week. But the other training plans I make have 3 runs a week, 2 in the middle of the week, and those are shorter, either 30 or 45 minutes, depending on the distance you're training for. And then the weekend is typically a long run, or however your week organizes, but there are 2 shorter ones and 1 long run. Okay, so are your short runs also increasing in addition to your long run? Yes or no? And at what distance or time does your injury start bothering you? When do you start feeling the pain? So if you have knee pain, when does the knee pain come on? Is it at the 8-mile mark? You can't get past that 8-mile mark, but 7 feels good. So what I typically have them do is you adjust and make sure that you're cross training and incorporate, especially if it's a long run day, incorporate cross training with your long run day. And so what you do is you run the distance that you can run without the pain, and then you add in the cross training equivalent. So then you're still getting the endurance workout that you need, but you're taking the load off your joints or your injured area or the muscle that hurts, whatever part hurts, you're taking that load off. Okay, and so in that case, they are adding in no more rest. Now, let me back up a second, because I should say, well, do you have any rest days at all? If you're running 7 days a week, yes, I'm going to highly, highly, highly recommend that you rest. Most runDisney runners, especially the ones that I work with, because they're injury prone, need at least 2 rest days a week, depending on which distance you're training for and what your experience is. I do recommend 2 full rest days. That means no strength training that day, no running that day, nothing that increases the load. And my clients who work with me, they know what I mean by what increases the load and what takes the load off, what increases the pressure, what takes the pressure off. So those are complete rest days. And so then you're doing your strength training on days that you're cross training or running and working your days that way. So if you're doing no rest days, yes, you do need to rest. So that could be somebody saying, oh, well, Dr. Allie, now you're telling me that I need to rest. Well, sure. Yes, you do. But I'm not saying you need to take 2 weeks off. I'm not saying you need to take a month off. It's so rare that I actually tell somebody, yep, you need to do complete rest. Go lay with your legs up and hang out. Don't work out. Don't run at all. It is so rare that I say that because, like I said, 80% of running injuries do not need more rest, and you will actually get hurt worse if you do rest more. Okay, so I hope that answers the question of how long should I rest. I just gave the exact scenario and the exact answer just now. So, as always, thank you so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.